Welcome to another Friday edition, a regular Friday edition. It's lovely and sunny outside here in Manchester. I hope it's all good with you and hope you're keeping safe and everything and staying indoors. Got quite a packed episode today. Episode 60, by the way. That's really nice. Dennis, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Hope you're okay. This is episode 60 and has my camera disappeared? What's going on? No, I think it's okay. We got a lot of stuff to cover, actually. Just a few things to talk through first, but then we'll just get right on it. In fact, why don't I move straight to the, what I call down here, the HOSD main, which is the scene, Hands on SAP Dev main, which allows me to then, minimize myself into the bottom right-hand corner and, show you my screen. Andrew, good morning, good evening to you. It's lovely and fine in Melbourne over there. It's great to know. Stabini, good morning. Good morning, Stabini, and welcome. And Manuel, good morning. Great to have you again. So yeah, this is Hands on SAP Dev, episode 60. And I was talking to a friend and colleague of mine yesterday, Kevin Mussig, who was on a live stream with me, sharing all sorts of awesome iOS stuff, Mac stuff, iOS and Mac OS development stuff. And I was saying, oh yeah, it is episode 60, which is sort of, a cause for celebration, but it's not really, because like an idiot, I started counting at 0. So really, this is the 61st episode. Sorry, I'm just being put off by the typing. This is the 61st episode, and so we can't really celebrate. Sort of, we should have maybe celebrated yesterday in between 2 episodes. But anyway, welcome, Rahul. Good morning. I'm doing very well. How are you? It's great to have you. Thanks for joining, everybody. So let me just cover off what we're going to do today. This is the page from the Hands on SAP Dev sort of homepage, as you know, hopefully. And the title of this episode is a little bit odd, because app router and the simplest thing that could possibly work. Phil, morning. Good morning. And Henrik as well. Good morning. Yes, exactly. It is nice to see that the weather isn't affected by Corona. I get to sit outside on the house premises, of course, not really going out apart from early morning on my run. Morton, good morning as well. Good morning. And Mahesh, good morning. Nice to see you, Mahesh. Hope you're doing well. So we're going to talk about app router, and it's going to turn out hopefully into a nice sort of segue from where we left off last Friday, which was looking at OAuth 2 and specifically the authorization code grant type. Okay, we may not cover everything today, but what I don't want to do is rush it. And good morning, Helmut. Moin moin. And I think I'm right in thinking that I think we all enjoy discovering by going through a great painstaking detail to understand things from the ground up. So that's what we'll do. So I'll definitely not rush it. I've got some stuff that's already set up, not necessarily for the purposes of this episode, but relating to Cloud Connector. So if you want to do a session on Cloud Connector as well, give me a shout in the comments and we'll do a session on Cloud Connector. But I don't want to dwell too much on the Cloud Connector today. So yeah, we're going to look at how we can access a backend service through the Cloud Connector, because why not, in the simplest possible way. And I'll explain what that is shortly. And there was a reason for me wanting to do that for real back in the Neo days. And I thought, I want to do this for real also in the Cloud Foundry environment these days. So, but before we go, what have I got to, there's only one thing, a couple of things. The simplest thing that could possibly work is a phrase that resonates with me, and that comes from one of the many heroes that I have learned a tremendous amount from, which is Ward Cunningham, inventor of the wiki, first of all, and inventor of all sorts of different things. Really big on frameworks for testing and so on, unit testing. Look him up. But basically, I've also, if you're interested, I've got this Tech Aloud podcast, which I think some of you know about. I'll just put the link in there. One of the episodes is me, the Tech Aloud podcast is me reading out articles and blog posts so you can listen to them when you're walking or running or whatever. Where is it? Oh, there we go. The simplest thing that could possibly work. This is an episode where it was an interview with Bill Venners, I think, and Ward Cunningham. Is an amazing interview. So have a look at that, or have a listen to that rather, and also subscribe to the podcast and get into your podcast player if you want. It's really good. Yeah, there we go. Ward Cunningham, a really big thinker, a really great person. I got a chance to meet him at OSCON once. So there we go. And the other thing is that later on today at 4 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. CET, I'm doing another live stream for folks. We're all sort of locked in at home at the moment in the UK and many other countries as well, and kids are going crazy, and parents too. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a code at home series. So Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, always at the same time, 4 o'clock UK time. And I'm just going to start out by solving a simply Project Euler problem. A little bit of JavaScript, super beginners. So, I want everybody to be able to sort of follow this, everybody from kids age 10, 11 upwards, right? So it's going to be very, very basic, but hopefully a lot of fun. So, if you've got kids or if you want to join as well, please do. It's on my YouTube channel, of course, which is there. So, you'll see actually that this is live now. Ooh, that's quite meta. And live now. That's interesting. And there it is. There's the upcoming live stream, Code at Home. So have a look at that. Okay, so sorry, Andrew. It is going to be very late or very early, depending on your perspective, for Australian Eastern time. I'm sorry about that, but I guess you can watch the replays as well. But yeah, I would prefer to do it in the morning as well. But there's not really much space in the morning to do it on a regular basis. So it's in the afternoon. And also over here in the UK, at least, kids have homework allotted to them in some schools right now during the lockdown that they have to do in the morning. So I thought, I don't want to disturb that. Okay, so there we go. So the general idea of what I want to cover today is goes back to when I used to be messing around with destinations in Neo, and destinations specifically that pointed to back-end SAP systems. So we all know that there's a SAP ES5. Can I do that? Yeah, I'll just log on to the GUI. Right, so there's an ES5 system, which I'm sure many people know about. I'm not sure what release it is. It's 740, maybe 750 NetWeaver. Anyway, I'm not going to log on now. We don't need to log on, but this is a system that's available to us. You can sort of sign up and everything. And I use this to access sort of remote OData services, just as demonstration, especially when I'm sort of building workflows. But one of the things was that I didn't want to sort of configure the backend system and configure a connection to the backend system from a cloud connector. I'll explain why I'm using the cloud connector in a minute. And then set it all up with a destination in the cloud platform cockpit, and then try to access that from a service task in a workflow definition, and it not to work. Okay, because if it doesn't work, it's like, well, which bit is not working? Which part of that sort of connection chain is not working? So what I wanted to do was to make sure I could access that backend system directly, effectively, or as near to the cloud platform as possible. And then once I got that working, I knew that all that bit of the chain was okay. Does that make? Thank you, Helmut. I hope it will help folks, with people going crazy at home and everything. In fact, as I say, I'm doing JavaScript, and I'm not going to sort of throw anything like Lambda or functional programming at them, but I think I am going to sort of already start talking about modularizing, start breaking the problem down and doing little bits, little functions that do things, etc., etc. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's Project Euler problem number 1, by the way. Multiples of 3 and 5, and what's the sum of these multiples and whatever, or something like that. So very simple. Anyway, so we've got this backend system, and I wanted to work out how to access it in the most direct way. and also using the cloud connector so we could pretend that it was an on-premise system. Of course, this is not an on-premise system, but you can still pretend it's an on-premise system by connecting to it from your cloud connector. Okay, so this is what I'd set up in Neo. I just want to spend 10 minutes maximum showing what, or less than that, what we set up in Neo. So let me show you. I've got here a container on my Docker system. By the way, as you probably know, this particular machine that we're on now is a container, an LXC container running in a virtual machine called Termina on my Chrome OS box. And in there, inside that container, I'm running Docker. It's like, whoa, Inception. Anyway, I've got a number of images, one of which is this SAP Cloud Connector, which I stole effectively originally from Nabi Zamani. He's got a GitHub repo. I can't remember where it was, where it is, but I refer to it in my code jam for workflow and cloud platform. Anyway, I'm running that, and it's listening, as you can tell, on, well, it's there, 8443. Grep listen. There it is. So I'm going to connect to it here. Localhost 8443. I've not set up a proper certificate for it. That's why we get this warning here, which is fine. I'm sure anybody who's used the Cloud Connector knows that. And I use this Cloud Connector. I use a Cloud Connector quite a lot. And what I've got here right now is a number of connections that it's connected to. So this is a Cloud Connector running here in as a Docker container, and it's connected to a trial account, the one that we used last week, actually, the one we used last Friday, this sort of qmacro workflow codejam.gmail.com account. Cool, thank you, Andrew. And I've also connected it to my current, normal trial account on Cloud Foundry. As you can see, there's a difference between the connection details between a Cloud Foundry connection and a Neo connection. So this is the connection to Neo, to my Neo sub-account, okay? And this is the one that's interesting for us right now for this demonstration. So it's connected. And if we go into the cockpit, and specifically just for this sort of, this part of the thing, the cockpit, go down here, where is it? Access Neo trial. You will see that in the destinations, I've got a destination already set up called shop info. Where is it? Shop info, which refers to an OData service on this virtual host name, right? We're just going to come to that in a second. More importantly, if we look at the cloud connectors, we can see that I've got a cloud connector connected. I connected it yesterday morning, right? And that cloud connector that's connected to this Neo sub account is exactly this cloud connector that we just had a look at, this Docker one. And in there, if we look at the cloud to on-premise, we've got this mapping that says basically it's exposing this virtual host called virtual ES5 on port 8000, because why not? And it maps internally to SAP ES5.sapdevcenter.com. Okay, so it's mapping to an SAP system in the cloud, but it could be on premise, right? This cloud connector could be running on premise behind a firewall and blah blah blah, right? So, and in that mapping, I've got a single specific URL path, SAP OPU OData, to give me access to all sorts of different OData services, and that's why we also see that here, right? So we got resources that are available. Okay, so far so good. So that was what we'd normally set up. So I wanted to know how can I test this as simply as possible before I launched into trying to get to it from a workflow service definition in a service task. And it turns out that it's actually quite straightforward and sort of beautiful in a way. So what I did back in the day was here's my hands-on SAP Dev sort of workspace here on SAP Web IDE, could be anywhere, but there we go. All I did was I created a little folder, not a project from template or anything, a little folder just with one file in it, and that's it. And that file is our sort of mapping file. I'm sure many people may recognize this neo app.json mapping file. And all we're doing there is we're defining a route. okay, which will then instruct the connectivity service, which is basically this wonderful reverse proxy at the heart, effectively, of the Neo environment. You know, it makes it all wonderful. At the heart of Neo, and it will route incoming connections to that destination shop info that we looked at before. So there's the destination. I mean, I don't want to go too much into detail about destinations and cloud connectors. Give me a shout if you want to have one of those deep dives, because it's wonderfully interesting. So we've got this destination. There's the destination here. I just pointed to it before. Where's H? Can't spell. Shop info. There. This is the destination, and that destination is defined as a URL which is using that virtual host, that exposed virtual ES5 on port 8000, SAP OPU OData. We know we can access that because we've opened that up as a connection, as that URL path, and then we go in specifically to this EPM Enterprise Procurement Management reference apps shop service, okay? And the proxy type of this destination configuration is on-premise rather than internet. So it knows to go down a cloud, look for a cloud connector connection and go down that connection, okay? And the authentication here is the authentication for that URL, for accessing that URL. So it's my authentication details for ES5, okay? Andrew's got a question. Is the cloud connector a little like SAP router in the cloud? Not quite, no. I mean, yes, it is in terms of it routes traffic, yes, you know, at a general, very, very high level, yes, it is. But what it does is it allows on-premise systems to be accessible in a controlled and secure way from SAP Cloud Platform. And you can basically, it forms a tunnel from your on-premise system, from the Cloud Connector service itself into the Cloud Platform. So you don't open up any ports on your on-premise system. You don't have to do any of that sort of stuff. You don't have to track IP addresses that belong to the range that the Cloud Platform has. None of that nonsense. It opens up outwards a tunnel to the Cloud Platform, connects securely, creates a VPN, and then you can define whitelist-wise destinations, so you can access all sorts of various things. And there's two-way traffic as well, right? You can actually access stuff in the Cloud Platform from your on-premise system. Lots of stuff to play around with there if you want to do that. Steve, Steve, good morning, Steve, and thank you for thank you for helping answer that as well. So let me know if you want a session on that as well. So anyway, we've got this destination. That destination is pointed to here as the target. So when we put /shop-info in this quote-unquote app, right, it will route through the reverse proxy, which is effectively the heart of Neo, the connectivity service, and it will route it down, hopefully, to that destination. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy that to the Cloud Platform as an app. Okay, there's no HTML, there's no CSS, there's no JavaScript, there's no nothing. Right, that app is literally just this routing configuration. So now when we go to applications, HTML5 applications, hopefully you should see that now. Destination test, there we go. Yeah, not that. I thought we might be last updated or whatever, but last inserted, or what's the word? Last deployed, but it's not. Anyway, that's the one we just created, and it has this required destination shop info and tick. It's found that destination in the sub account. So now when we click on this to go to the application, let's see what happens. We get not found because there's nothing behind this application route. However, if, as we say, we just specify the string, right? This is this path here, shop info. In fact, just to emphasize, I'll copy that and paste that into there, bang. If we specify that, we get a drum roll in the distance, hopefully. Come on, come on, come on. And we get some XML, some colorful XML. And anybody wants to shout to say what that document specifically is? 10 points to the first person who shouts what it is. Hey, Sasha, good morning. Good morning to you, Sasha. Will I configure principal propagation as well? Not in this one, but if we do a session or more than one session on the Cloud Connector, then yeah, definitely. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways in a backend SAP system you can sort of, do principal propagation at a fairly sort of hacky level, at our level. So we could do that as well. But this, as some people may recognize, is XML, of course. More specifically, it's XML from an OData service document. And it's Max as exactly right. It's EDMX, Entity Data Model XML, I think. Yes, thank you very much. And good morning to you, Max. So, hey, Fidge Master, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's not the metadata. And also, I think Max is running away because he's written OData in all caps. The metadata, there are two, digressing here, but there are two well-known documents in every OData service. There's the service document, which is this one, and then there's the metadata document, which is that one, the one with $metadata on the end. Morgan Pierre, good morning, bonjour. There we go, there's the metadata document. Okay, it's still XML because this is an OData v2 thing. And anyway, yeah, actually those two sentences don't make sense together. So we've got that, and we've also proved to ourselves that we can go from the cloud platform, because look, we're actually accessing a URL on the cloud platform, destination test, which is this quote unquote app, but we're going magically through the Neo's reverse proxy, which is the connectivity service, through the destination definition, all the way down through the cloud connector to the backend system, right? Service document, exactly. So can we do that, or how can we do that in the new world of Cloud Foundry? Okay, and it turns out that, of course, we can, but it's a little bit more interesting, okay, because things are, more distributed, it's more microservice like, so there's more things to do. So I've just been distracted because there's a picture of Michelle. I've got this Google Nest hub here, and there's a picture of Michelle dressed as Dolly Parton from A Stars in Their Eyes. It's Michelle's just over here, by the way. She's typing very quietly. Shall I turn the camera on so you can say hello? She's going, no, don't say that. So I won't do that. She's in a gym kit. She's been working out this morning in the kitchen. Anyway, where was I? That was a real distraction, actually. What the hell is going on? Oh yes, here we go. So how do we do this in Cloud Foundry? So we don't need the cloud. We've got the Cloud Connector already set up to connect. Oh, it's already connected to my Cloud Foundry account. Bear in mind, by the way, if you've not done this already, when you connect to a Cloud Foundry endpoint, you specify the sub account as the sub account ID. Okay, so I'm going to go to my Cloud Foundry area of my cockpit now. So I just go enter your trial account, bang, straight in there. Andrew, please share. It's gone now. I can't share that picture anymore, but I may share it online later. It's awesome. We do this sort of Stars in Their Eyes twice a year, and I'm the compere, and there's all sorts of acts that are brilliant. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, trial. Here we go. And there is the ID of the subdomain, and that's the ID that you have to specify when you connect, okay, a cloud connector to a Cloud Foundry endpoint on Cloud Platform. But anyway, so there we go. So how do we do this? So we got the Cloud Connector as well. We have the Cloud Connector. It's connected to the Neo environment. It's also connected here, as you can see, and it's also exposing this virtual ES5. If we look at the connector here, we can see in the Cloud on-premise, that one is the trial one. So if we look at that one there, we can also see that it's exactly the same. Okay, I've just copied the mapping and the resources as well. So I've also defined already, here's what I did earlier, as it were. I've actually downloaded and uploaded it, a shop info destination, which is effectively exactly the same. Okay, so we've got a name and it's pointing to the same URL, and it's also the same proxy type, as in it's on premise, so it will look for a Cloud Connector. We'll discuss location ID on Cloud Connectors if we do a Cloud Connector series episode or two, and so on. And I don't think we mentioned the additional property, the ES5 system. The default client is client 2, so we just specify the additional property of SAP client 002 there. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, we have the equivalent of the NeoApp.json in the form of configuration for this thing called AppRouter. I'll be honest, AppRouter, until recently, AppRouter was always a little bit of a, well, it still partly is, always a little bit of a sort of a, a dark magic box that you sort of configured at a distance, by poking it with a stick with configuration and hoping it worked, and deploying the app. Oh, it's not worked, and whatever, right? For me, because I'm rubbish. But actually, it's a very approachable component, and it's a super important component. As you know, AppRouter is the front end, let's call it, of Cloud Foundry apps generally, for the most part, on SAP Cloud Platform, Cloud Foundry. So it's worth knowing a little bit about. And what we also need to know is that the destinations definitions in Neo are available in Cloud Foundry as well, but available as a service. Okay, so there's a destination service. Let's go into the space here. Where's the spaces? Come on. There we go. Let's go into dev space. There's a destination service, but not only that, but the connectivity service that was in Neo, which was sort of, almost like implicit at the heart of Neo, the connectivity mechanism is now sort of explicitly a service. So what I've done to save a little bit of time is I've created an instance of the connectivity service called connectivity with a light plan. Ditto for destination. So I've got a connectivity service instance, I've got a destination service instance, both for the light plan, and I've also defined an XS-UAA instance. The XS-UAA, we've come across that before. That's the user authentication and access service, which we'll come to, and it's an application plan. Okay, we've used the XS-UAA there, see, for the workflow stuff. Okay, and I've configured the XS-UAA service with some configuration, defining a basic role and scope and everything. But we'll look at that in the next episode, because there's so much to cover here. So we'll look at sort of the XS-UAA configuration later on. What I want to get to is the equivalent of where we got to right now. Is that where we want to go? Let me know on the comments there. Let me know in the chat if we're still following and everything. And if you're sort of craving the terminal, I'll move to the terminal in a second. I'm very aware that I've just been using the web browser a lot, which is not really my scene. So where were we? Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make use of the connectivity, destination, and XS-UAA services, but we'll do it sort of bit by bit. Now, let me move up here and start thinking about the AppRouter. Now, anybody know, can anybody tell me in the chat where the AppRouter is? Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for the confirmation. Well, in fact, I'll tell you. The AppRouter is basically a Node.js module package from SAP. It's in the @SAP namespace, and it's available in the SAP npm repository. So why don't we start? Because we know we need to use the AppRouter. And if you look in the documentation, I don't want to sort of, have you watch me look at documentation. You can find the documentation yourself and look at it yourself. But why don't we create what I've got in here? In fact, what I've got in here, what have we got? Let's quit that actually. We've got this XS security JSON file. And because I don't like the name XS security, sort of because for me in my mind, I'm not really sure what XS stands for. I'm thinking it obviously refers to, not obviously, I'm thinking it refers to the extended services of the HANA development platform, but I don't know, right? I'm not bothered to find out. Hey, good morning, Napheat. Good afternoon, Napheat, and good morning, Ronnie. Great to see you both. Welcome. So we've got this XS security, which is basically the configuration that I used to define the XS-UAA service. Okay, but we'll look at that another time. So what I've done, just to sort of satisfy my mind, is I pointed to that XS security with a config JSON file. And I use the phrase, I use the name config.json because it's basically configuration. Right? I don't like the word. I don't like the name XS security. So why don't we create a little node project that's going to use the SAP AppRouter? Make their destination test, let's call it, and npm let's initialize that as a project. Okay. Now, let's do this. We're doing the simplest thing that could possibly work. So I don't want any of this nonsense, or even this, right? So let's just see. I mean, that script thing, you know, it's not really going to help us either, but I just want to pare it down to the bare minimum for now. But we need the app router as well. And I've got npm config ls in my configuration. You can see that we've got the SAP registry already defined. So I can say npm install SAP app router. Let's do that. Of course, the app router is something that will run, you know, and it only sort of makes sense in the context of the Cloud Foundry environment on SAP Cloud Platform. But actually, you know, there's nothing scary about it. It's just a node module, right? So, you know, we could maybe poke a little bit at it here locally before we deploy it and sort of cross our fingers and everything. Come on, install. Yeah, the request is still deprecated. Anyway, that's a story for another time. Okay, so now we've got it installed. Let's have a look. And we've got now this extra couple of lines here, which is nice. It's added that dependency for us. Okay, now, why don't we just run it? Okay, and if we have a look, actually, in the node modules, I mean, the app router depends on, I mean, look at all these node modules that we install, right? Because the SAP app router, npm info app router, relies on a ton of stuff, okay? Standing on the shoulders of giants and so on. So there's all those dependencies there. There's, you know, and 21 more, right? Those are all the dependencies. And that's why our node modules directory is so large. But if we have a look in the app router directory, there's actually, you know, sort of almost like hidden. There's a beautiful bit of documentation, right? It's a huge README file. In fact, let's just have a quick look here. MD-less is a really nice utility. MD-less was a bit like less, which is a bit like more, but it will sort of render markdown nicely. So if we have a look at README, we can see there's all sorts of documentation on the app router. Okay, you know, nighttime reading. It's fantastic. But anyway, we're not going to read the documentation. We're just going to sort of, you know, hack at it and see what works and see what doesn't work. So if we say, well, in fact, there we go, we're still there, and there's an app router.js, right? And if you look at the documentation, it basically says to run that. So why don't we just run it? Node modules, SAP app router.js. Okay, so first, in fact, before we look at the error message, I'm guessing that we can say, can we? Maybe we can't. npx app router.js. No, okay, let's not do that. Anyway, I suppose we could do if we specified it properly. But anyway, what we get is an error. And I like errors. You know, errors teach us things. So what it says here is file not found. File not found. And what is the file? Well, we can sort of, I can guess what file it is. File not found. Excess app.json. There we go. In fact, it's there, right? It's looking for a file called excess-app.json, which is more or less the equivalent of our neoapp.json. So why don't we create that file? Okay, and I've got an example here. I'm not, you know, this is not, I'm just making this up, but I've got an example here. It's interesting that, you know, excess dash is a prefix for excess security, excess app and everything. But anyway, it's JSON, and it looks very similar to the neoapp.json. In fact, I'm going to type something in now. Why don't we say roots? Okay, this is. I don't know why it's adding JSON. And Andrew, I know I've become an even bigger fan, Andrew, of the YQ thing. Actually, yeah, let's do that. If we say YQ read convert to JSON, standard in, pipe that through pretty print JSON, and then put it into excess app.json. So we can say here roots. Well, let's have roots. We've got a root called. Well, we've got one root with source there, and destination of, well, let's call it my URL. Okay, my URL, and that's it. 3i XS app, and we got some nice. There we go. That was a lot easier than typing in all this nonsense JSON, right? So this is a root definition which looks very similar to the neoapp.json. Okay, so neoapp.json equals xsapp.json. Yeah, they're the equivalent, right? As far as we're concerned, exactly. And if you remember, I've not got the cloud. Oh, I have actually. I've got the web ID still open up there, so I'll just bring that into view for a second. There, we've got the roots definition, and it's an array of records, and you've got a path and target. Okay, so it's slightly different, but not that different that we don't understand what's going on. So we created this xsapp.json. So let's run it again. Ooh, there we go. We don't get the xsapp.json file missing, but we get another error, which is good. And by the way, I'm going to ask you, and please, you know, if anybody's done any live streams, you know, one of the hardest things is to know, you know, if people are okay and going in the right direction and everything. I'm going to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and so this may extend into another episode. I hope that was okay. Hey, Freddie, good morning. Good morning. And you're at school today, not the bus. So welcome, and hope you can stay. Sasha, you've got your picture-in-picture window on the same spot you usually have my dev terminal. Just trying to type a command into your live stream. Famous at last. I'm now Sasha Keeper's command line. Pitch master. Yes, that was pretty funny. Okay, so we have another error. xsapp.json roots 0. I mean, you know, I've never seen that before, literally, but we can sort of tell what that is, right? We know roots is an array, so this is probably saying the 0th, the first record in the roots array in xsapp.json. There's something wrong with it. Format validation fail. Root references unknown destination. Why am I burping from this coffee? Root references unknown destination my URL. Okay. So, but that's good, because we know then that the xsapp.json is there. It's reading it. It's trying to make sense of it. It's also recognized that we have specified a destination, but that destination doesn't exist. And it turns out, if you read the documentation, that you can specify, and it will look for the resolution of these destinations in the environment. Okay, environmental variables. Who knew? I mean, when I started programming web applications back in the sort of the late 90s with CGI. Anybody put in the chat what if you remember using CGI, and I don't mean something graphics. What does CGI stand for? If you remember that, then thumbs up. And CGI was the way that you built web apps, and it also used environmental variables. I mean, environmental variables are so fundamental, so basic, but they're used back then and now in the present and future. Anyway, so we can specify a destination. Now, if we have a look, what was it? Destination. Oh yes, we've got here. Let me just find. Where are we? There we go. I'm just looking for the documentation. I'm looking on a different screen. I don't want to move away from there. There is some documentation. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Right. Perfect. Let's bring it down here. I think I probably had it in here, didn't I? Yes, there it is. There it is. Application router. There. I knew I wanted to refer to it. And the application router, application routes and destinations. This tells us about the environmental variables, okay? This tells us about what the destinations could or should be, name and URL, okay? So let's just, bang our heads against the wall and see what we can do here. So if we say export destinations equals, and then that's going to be some JSON, and we've got a name and URL. So let's have a look at it says here the destinations configuration. Let's move that down again. The destinations configuration is an array of objects that is defined in the destinations environmental variable. Notice that it's lowercase destinations, which is a bit unusual for environmental variables, but anyway. The following table lists the properties that can be used to describe the destination. So, name and URL. We're not doing any proxying or anything. We're not doing any sort of auth at the moment, right? So let's just go for name and URL. So let's bring that down there and say, so there's an array of sort of pairs. So we've got name, and what was it? Unknown destination, my URL. And the URL should be, what's a URL? HTTPS qmacro.org, nothing like some self-promotion there. Let's just export that. Pick up destinations. So there we've now got, in the destination environmental variable, this name value pair that resolves, hopefully, the my URL destination to the URL, okay? This is almost like, a very small and simple version of the destination definition, well, it is effectively, that we have on Cloud Platform Cloud Foundry, and also we had on Cloud Platform Neo as well, right? Hello. So I just clicked away for whatever reason from the chat. Here we go. So Andrew Bernard, sorry, only JSP, BSP. Okay, Java server pages, business server pages. Andrew Bernard, you've got Barnard. Is it Barnard or Bernard? Anyway, Common Gateway Interface. It is. It's Common Gateway Interface. Yes, and there's a brilliant O'Reilly book that I read from cover to cover a long time ago called Programming the World Wide Web with CGI or something like that. Anyway. That's the one. So I've still got it. So Common Gateway Interface was the way that you programmed web applications and dynamic stuff back in the day. Anyway, and it used environmental variables, lots of them. So we've got this destinations now. So now if we run this, and the destinations is exported, so it's available to anything. So let's see what happens now, okay? Oh, there we go. We don't get that error anymore, but we get slightly scary error, no UAA service found. Okay, now we know UAA is the user authorization and access or something like that, or authentication, authorization, access. Why do they all begin with A? It's really confusing. Why are we getting this error? Okay, obviously we're running within this context here of my command line. All we've got, remember, all we've got literally is this xsapp.json file. That's the node package.json. There's the package block, ignore that, and there's the node modules. There's nothing else, and there's no Cloud Foundry, there's no Cloud Platform, there's no nothing. So of course there's not going to be any XSUA, and it turns out that that's because if you look at the documentation. Oh, by the way, let me share that documentation URL in the live chat. It turns out that if you look at the documentation, the equivalent here, where is it? We have an authentication method equivalent as well, okay, in the xsapp.json, right? So, and the key thing is that if you don't specify explicitly, the default value for authentication method is a value that is not none. The value is root, actually, which is a root-based authentication. So authentication is on a root by root or URL basis, right? So what we can hopefully do to say, go away error about UAA service is tell it not even to try and authenticate, okay, in this particular context. So why don't we try that by modifying that to say, just like we had in the authentication method none. Okay, now let's see what happens. And there we go. We get no error. We also get no return to the command prompt, which means that it's running. Look, as you can see at the bottom there, it's listening on port 5000. Okay, so basically, if you've ever deployed something to Cloud Platform, Cloud Foundry, and using an app router, like I have, and it's like, oh, I've no idea what's going on. App router, just please do things. I don't know. Almost. You know, it's not scary. It's just a regular HTTP server listening on a port for incoming connections, right? And it does some super interesting things. We'll come to that. Now, we've configured it with this test root configuration, which will go from, let's open up another thing here. What would you call it? Desk test, which will go from anything with a source of /. I mean, basically, if we just go for the root URL in the path, it will route, because it's an app router, right? It will route that request to the destination my URL, and my URL is defined, as we've seen, as we've done ourselves, with the qmacro.org URL, right? So why don't we try? Let's go back to here and open up another window so we can see what's going on. Another pane, sorry, use TMUX terminology correctly. Curl, because we all love curl. And let's have a look at a verbose version. HTTP localhost, lolcat host, localhost 5000 /. Okay, I'm sort of partly making this up. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, but let's see what we get. Okay, we got something. Ooh, I've noticed something here. Oops, I've noticed something here. Let's just zoom that in for a second. I've noticed something here. That's a phrase I know. I wrote that phrase, and I wrote that phrase. I have no idea what all that nonsense is there. SVG. Oh, it's an SVG. Okay, that's what it is. That phrase is that. So we've gone and we've asked the app router for the root URL path / at localhost 5000, and we've got back the contents of qmacro.org resource. Okay, so there's an example of what the app router does for us, right? It's not scary. It's pretty wonderful, and it's got a lot of documentation as well, right? So, which I have read it all, right? Again, I'm trying to learn by bashing into walls and then backing up and going a bit further, because I think it's a fun way to learn. So why don't we take that knowledge now and try and deploy something to the cloud platform in the same way, right? We've got on the cloud platform, while I'm in the browser, let's have a look. On the cloud platform, let's get rid of that. We'll leave that one. We don't need that anymore. We don't need that. We don't really need the cloud connector either. Here we go. We've got a connectivity service, a destination service, and an XSUAA service. But why don't we sort of ignore those and try and do the simplest thing that could possibly work in this context. So let's just go out here again. We don't need that one. Fine. Okay, so we're going to stop the app router running right now. Can you tell I'm making this up? Right, so why don't we modify this slightly, because what we need to do is specify not the my URL destination, but the what's it called? Shop info. Shop Ingo. That could be like a superstore, couldn't it? Shop Ingo. That is the destination that we've defined in the Cloud Foundry destinations, as we saw. So why don't we try that? I have no idea what's going to happen, seriously. So let's try that. Okay. And just see what happens. So in order to try that, and in order to deploy this app router thing to the Cloud Foundry, of course, we need to use like a deployment. Can't think of the word. Bucket. As we're doing the simplest thing that could possibly work, we don't want to do it like a multi-target application. That's like, whoa, no, too much. We can just define our application our Cloud Foundry application, which will sort of contain this app router application for us, in a manifest, in a Cloud Foundry manifest file. So let's create a manifest file. And I've been messing around with manifest files enough to know that the minimum we need is a name. So why don't we call it my desk, well, I don't know, desk test, right? Naming things is hard. And also what I've learned is that you used to specify the host name, the stuff, the most significant part of the URL on the root you've got in the Cloud Foundry. Let me just shut this door. The wonders of everybody working from home. It's great, actually. I think we should embrace. Well, I should embrace it more, right? Michelle's going to work here in a bit. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, you just want to specify, what the host should be, and it needs to be unique and everything. So, let's think of a unique host. But actually, what you can do is say random root true. Okay. Now, I think that's probably all we actually need for something maybe to happen. We might get an error, because by default, you can specify a path to say here, this is where the actual app is, this directory, but that's default. So let's just do the simplest thing that could possibly work, right, and see what happens. CF push. In fact, let's have a look at CF. What apps have we got right now? We've just got those ones relating to the workflow stuff we were doing in last week and the week before, right? So CF push. Let's see what happens. Don't know. Oh, a cup of coffee. Drink of coffee. Oh, there we go. So far, okay, it's got a name. I'm thinking also it's nicely sort of formatted. One of the few CF commands that isn't completely ugly. This is saying here that, oh yeah, you've specified explicitly the name, but you haven't specified explicitly the path, so I'm not going to put that in green. I'm guessing that's what it is, right? And it's generated a random route for us, a sweet raven. Okay, sweet raven. These would be good for generating sort of t-shirt slogans. And by the way, I've just been speaking to Alex Ellis, who came on last week. We're going to do some t-shirts, OAuth at 8 a.m. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. By the way, I've not done a t-shirt giveaway for a while. I've got some t-shirts upstairs, so remind me for next time. I'll do another t-shirt giveaway. And I've also got, of course, that's very posh, this Jimmy Choo box. Not mine, by the way. Well, it was. There we go. I've got a load of stickers, and I got a ton more of stickers somewhere up there. The developers at SCP.com. So ping me direct message on Twitter if you want any stickers. I've got a load of amazing, from the amazing Ronnie, hands on SCP dev stickers still. And I've got some cloud application programming model stickers and cap stickers, and I got a ton of these. Sorry, there's more. Got a ton of these, so I can send a load of these. So yeah, hit me up on what's it called? Twitter. Direct message. Send me your address, and I'll post you some off. I've got some stamps, so we're golden. Okay. Oh, right. So perfect. It's sort of stopped and it's failed. Let's have a quick look to see. First of all, did we miss anything? There's a lot of output here, isn't there? Well, first of all, what we saw is it's like downloaded. Why is it downloading Python and Ruby and Java and all that sort of stuff? It's because we didn't specify explicitly what build pack to use. So what it's trying to do is trying to work out what it is and then determine the appropriate build pack. Now, why it has to download all these build packs to do that, I don't know. Right? It seems a bit crazy. But anyway. It does all that, and then blah, 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 some warnings, and then it, of course, brings in all these dependencies. Oh my God, it's 8:54. Brings in all these dependencies, and then fails. Okay, so why don't we have a look? CF logs, dest, test, recent, to see what happened. There we go. So we get, I've run this before, and interestingly, we also, it happens multiple times. So obviously it's Cloud Foundry environment, it's trying to start it and tries again, and go, oh, no, this is no good, right? And then eventually gives up. But the interesting thing is the error here, where is it? There. Missing script, start. Now, this will tell us indirectly, and if you read the documentation, it'll tell us directly, that what Cloud Foundry, the context needs to know is, well, how do I, this app that you've just given me in this manifest, how do I start it? And in the node build pack, what it will do is it will look for the start script and do whatever the start script says. Now, we didn't specify a start script. We have this stupid test script that was from the default initialization. So let's specify a start script. So what we want to do is do exactly what we did on the command line here. Node, is it node modules? Yeah, node modules, SAP approuter.js. And that's all we should do, right? Let's try that, okay? One thing at a time. All that effort just for a little, in a way it is a small outcome, but for us here, who are, nicely friendly and curious, it's a huge outcome because it tells us a whole lot what's going on, rather than, it work all the time, let's have it not work. And then, that's a great way to learn. Embrace failure in one way. So embrace coffee as well. So I'm thinking it's 8:56. This probably is the last thing we'll do. So actually that means that I'll be able to use that stupid graphic that I put together with destination and connectivity and XSUIA again, because why not? Why be sensible when you can be stupid? So we'll continue this on the next live stream. And do you think we should do, as we're all at home, do you think we can afford to find a time to do this regular morning live stream on an extra day as well? Maybe, like on a Wednesday or something, as well as the Friday in the morning. Okay, I can't do the afternoons because my brain's dead in the afternoon. So let's have a look. Oh, sorry, Andrew. I mean, all that CF effort to determine that start was missing. Yes, exactly. What I've also should have done, we'll do that maybe in the last couple of minutes, is add the build pack information to the manifest and see if we get rid of all that downloading Python, Java, and Ruby and nonsense, all that sort of stuff. So let's see what we get now. Yeah. Waiting for app to start. I like the word container here because it sort of reminds us that actually what's going on in Cloud Foundry is just containers, just like Docker. So maybe you're not like, maybe I'm sure you are, a lot better at thinking about this stuff than I am. But, a lot of this stuff is like, cloud, and I don't know what's going on. It's all sort of black box and everything. But actually, it's just the stuff that we use on the command line, but somewhere else. So this is failed again. Before I forget, let's just add that build packing, the build pack information, and it's build packs, because you can have multiple build packs, so this is an array. Michelle's Windows machine is going crazy, the fan is on, and she's not even doing anything. Node.js build pack, so that's for our next deployment, okay. So now let's have a look at the recent logs before we finish. Oh, right, let's have a look. Wow, this is a long one. Right, let's have a look. VCAP, okay, this is that manages all the environmental variables. Format validation failed, root references unknown destination shop info. But we got the destination shop info. Why is that? Why is it? What? And the reason is because somebody's going to ring me up and tell me what the reason is. Oh, I better call her back in a minute. It's Flora. So let's end on that bombshell. Why do you think, oh, did droplet 33 meg, exactly. Why do you think it's complaining that the root references this unknown destination shop info? Let's not answer that now. Well, answer that now if you know it, right? Have a think about why that might be. We've got the shop info destination. In fact, it's, where is it? It's at this level. It's at the sub-account level, isn't it? Just to show you, destinations. There it is. So why can't we find it? Okay, let's end on that wonderful bombshell. Have a great rest of the day. Have a great weekend. Tune in next week. Exactly, Phil. Tune in next week to find out. And ping me on Twitter, on public Twitter, whether you could stomach and like a midweek morning live stream as well. Okay. So until then, goodbye. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay indoors, and maybe join the coding live stream later on this afternoon. Okay. Bye for now. Cliffhanger. Exactly.